when we were researching this information was the fact that it's almost half of what we saw in 2017, as well as much lower than 2018 and 2019 listings. So what that active listing count shows is that how many properties are actively on the market at any given time from the beginning of a month towards the end of the month. As that number is lower, what that's showing is that as listings are coming up, they're going off the market at an extremely quick pace, so that you're not having as many properties coming to the market, but when they do come, they're not staying on leading in month after month after month. What we've seen historically is that in January, it's a little bit of a lull. We see it build up going into the summer months, peaking right around the time in September when school starts back, and then declining back down and starting all over again. As we bring in the 2020 numbers, you see we started in January, right a little bit lower than what we've seen in 2019 in previous years, but still right above that 100,000 point, or that 1 million point. And then we saw a steep decline as interest rates continued to low, as people got a little more, as people were at home during the pandemic and started to get that demand, that itch of, I want something new, I want something different. And what we saw was the number of active listings rapidly decline as we went through 2020. Now, as we move into 2021, that trend continued. And then in February of this year, we hit one of our all-time lows on active listings on the market. Now, what that didn't mean is that we had a shortage of buyers. That just meant that we had a shortage of listings that were out there. Anything that was going to market, pretty much within days, was going away, right? Now, what we're starting to see is it start to tick back up following that normal trend, but is still significantly lower than what we've seen in previous years of the active count on market. Now, what that should mean to my sellers is that if you are speaking about selling your property, this is still a great time to put your house on the market. As I stated earlier, with interest rates where they are, the amount of loan programs that they're out there for our buyers, we do not have a shortage of buyers. There is an abundance of buyers. There's still a shortage in inventory. What we are seeing, though, is that it is starting to slow just a little bit, and it's starting to kind of fall back into those trends that we've seen in the past as we run into that fall season. I call it the back to school season, that we see more active listings currently on the market, but we're still much lower than we are and historically been. So one of the things that we would like to see is that active listing actually go past the orange and start to go back up over that 800,000. What that will do is, while it does slow appreciation, it does keep affordability of the houses kind of stable, right? If we continue to have a shortage in active listings, what that's going to do is continue to drive up the price of houses to a point to where you're going to have buyers, we're going to have more and more buyers wanting to buy, wanting to get out there and purchase a house, but the cost of the house will just continue to go up because there's just not enough listings out there to meet the demand. Now, one of the things that I think will help that situation is the fact that we're starting to see a decline in the cost of lumber. So as many know who are doing home renovations, in new construction, building, whatever projects you may have seen, lumber over the course of the last year has skyrocketed, sometimes 60 to 70%. Well, we've starting to see that number come the other direction as of late. So as the lumber prices and commodities in general continues to go down, we should hopefully start to see more of our production builders out building more houses, that continues to affect that inventory and hopefully increase the number of active listings that are out there. So as that continues to trend up, hopefully our active listings will eventually outpace what the decline that we saw in last year. And while you will still have appreciation of the real estate market, it will hopefully keep prices at an affordable rate, so more homeowners can actually go out and purchase and find a house that's within their price range. So if you remember last week when we were talking, we showed you a slide. It went through July of this year where we were talking about forbearance, right? And where their exit plans are. So with the updated information that we just got out, that we can see that we had a small tick up in the number of people who are exiting without a loss mitigation plan, as well as a small, what, 1/10% that are now in that what we call trouble barrel. But what we also see is that in the green and blue areas, we're seeing a larger number in that modification and loan deferral as than we did in the green section, or people who completely just exited out of the forbearance process. So while some may, again, as we talked about last week, think, hey, this is a market, this market's in a bubble, and once it crashes, that's when I want to jump in there. Well, I want to walk through the fallacy that may be with that thought, right? Like I told you last week, that shortage of mortgages and forbearance with less than 10% equity, right? Remember what I said, over 90% of all the people who are in forbearance have over 10% equity in their property, meaning that 10% number is the standard of what we look at when we look for the verge of a crash. 10% equity generally means that you have the ability to pay any closing costs that's necessary. You can pay the realtors as needed in order to sell your property and still walk away with some amount of money. So with that, it says less than 2%. So over 98% of those people who are currently in forbearance are at, have a current loan to value of 10% or less. So 98% of the people out there have greater than 10%. All right. If we take in consideration they've been in forbearance or they continue in forbearance for 18 months, that number moves to 96%, meaning that if they deferred all their payments, all the interest on their payments for an 18-month period, that 96% of the people out there in forbearance would still have greater than 10%. If we went there and they deferred 18 months of deferred PITI. PITI is your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. That's your full payment. That means they are paying nothing at all on their property. Still, over 93% of the people in forbearance would still have greater than 10% equity in their property at the time if they were looking to sell or had to exit. So all that means is that Black Knight did a study out there that we found that said all in, just 130,000 of the active forbearance plans have less than 10% equity after factoring in 18 months of deferrals. That's complete deferrals. That means they paid absolutely nothing at all in the last 18 months. Now, the 130,000 may seem like a lot, but I'm sorry. So 10% of 130,000 may seem like a lot, but when you span that over the entire country, that's a small number of properties that even if they were to get foreclosed, go to market, would not even get close to meeting the shortage that we've had. So when we look at over from 2017 going forward, we look at the number of foreclosures that we made up, that are made up each year. You'll see that in 2017, we had about 314,220 foreclosures that occurred in 2017, making an average between 2017 and 2019 of about 290,000 foreclosures that were active during that period of time. In 2020, we had a total of 129,000. And right now, currently, in the first half of 2021, we've had less than 19,000. So in the last it would take over 2 years just to make up for the lack of foreclosures that was playing into the number of active listings that we had currently seen in previous years. So bottom line is that most homeowners in forbearance have sufficient equity in their homes, and there will not be a huge wave of foreclosures like the following the housing bubble of the previous years, said Bill McBride, right? So what that should mean is that anybody who may actually be in a situation where they're in a forbearance, they've deferred their payments, they deferred their interest, that you should in fact be contacting an agent before you get to a point that you are going to exceed that equity bubble that you have, so that you're not losing your house for nothing, right? That you're not being foreclosed and forced out, that you're able to sell, have some money to be able to readjust. Also, what that should be telling everyone else, though, who is sitting on the sidelines waiting, thinking that the market's going to crash all the way around us and that we're going to see the previous rates, the previous costs that we've seen back in 2016 or 17, or even as late as 2018 and 19, that those days probably just are not a realistic, especially not following, not in the trends that we're seeing and at the numbers that we're seeing between people who are in forbearance or as people or active cases of foreclosure. Again, like I said, in 2021, we've seen no more than about 19,000 so far, with a normal average of about 290,000 we see in average years. So again, I hope this information has been helpful. I hope anybody who may be out there looking to purchase a house, please feel free to reach out to us, give us a call. Anybody looking to actively sell your property, we're here to help. We have lots of resources at our disposal to be able to help you get through any situation, whether that's referring you out to different lenders for possible refinances, taking advantage of the low interest rates that are currently pushing this market, or if it's selling your property and helping you relocate, we will be more than happy to assist and help you. So as always, I hope to see you all next week when we go back into the market, looking at what the current trends are, as well as some of our other projects that we have.